So if you're looking for the most in-depth Ifá teachings, transformative divination experiences, and also the most authentic Ifá products and services, you are definitely in the right place. So we are definitely going to get started. If you are watching this live, be sure to go ahead and leave any questions or comments that you have in the chat boxes so I can talk to you there. We can get those questions answered as we go along. And also, if you're watching the replay of this, you can leave your comments, any questions rather, in the comment sections, and I will be sure to get to them whenever I can. So thank you guys. You're telling me that you can hear me in all locations. So beautiful. Perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. Today we are going to talk about common types of Ifá readings and processes, because this is an area that gets a whole lot of confusion. People get confused on it because there are different types of readings and things that can go on when it comes to getting information from Ifá, the oracle, but also from the system. So I wanted to clarify so many different things when it comes to these dynamics. We're going to focus on Ifá itself. So like we're getting information from like an Ifá diviner, an owl, so a Babaláwo or an Ìtéfá or something like that. I am not going to discuss Orisha readings in this particular episode. However, I do want you guys to know that that is a thing as well. So if somebody isn't Orisha, they can do readings directly from the Orisha that they serve. And so that's something that you want to have a conversation with them about. It's so plentiful and so many different processes. That's why I don't want to get into it in this session. Instead, we are going to focus, however, on Ifá divination, Ìdàfá, what most people think of when they hear Ifá divination, ancestor readings, spiritual investigations, destiny readings, and then also look at dream interpretation. So first, I want to start by just giving an overview of each of the different processes that I mentioned. Then I'm going to dig in and talk about like some of the questions that you can get answered, right? You can ask any question that you desire. However, it's not prudent to ask all types of questions because an Ifá diviner is not going to be able to answer all different types of questions. So that's what we're going to look at today. So we're going to start with Ìdàfá, or Ifá divination, that most people know about, right? So Ìdàfá, that is when the spiritualist, the diviner, speaks directly to Orunmila or Ifá. Ifá and Orunmila are used interchangeably. Yes, Ifá is the system itself. However, Orunmila is oftentimes referred to as Ifá. Ifá, or Orunmila rather, is an Orisha, right? And you can be linked to this Orisha as your head Orisha, just like any other Orisha can be a head Orisha as well. But this is who an Ìtéfá or a Babaláwo will speak to whenever they are doing a full-on Ifá divination. This is what we call a comprehensive service. So what happens here is that the individual is going to cast those sacred tools that are used in Ifá divination. They're going to get an interpretation from, they're going to get rather an Odu. They're going to interpret that Odu, and then they're going to come back and prescribe necessary sacrifices or ebo from the Odu that is revealed in your reading. Every single Ifá reading, Ifá divination reading, Ìdàfá, comes with ebo or sacrifices. This is something that is a huge source of confusion because sometimes people say, I got an Ifá reading and it did not come with an ebo. You did not get an Ifá reading. That's the answer to that, to just be blunt, because I can't explain it any other way than to say this is what happens in tradition. In tradition, an Ifá reading comes with a sacrifice at the end of it. Every single one of them does, because Ifá readings are done to generate rather an Odu. All right. And all of the knowledge of Ifá comes from the Odu that has already been laid forth and passed down from centuries, from generation to generation. That is where the information comes from. Therefore, every single Odu comes with a sacrifice. So it will come with a sacrifice. There are other types of readings that may not come with a sacrifice. And so my best guess there is if you did get a reading and it did not come with an Ebo or a sacrifice, then it was not true Ìdàfá. Now, that could be so many different reasons related to that. Maybe you just didn't understand who was doing the reading in their process, and you thought you were getting an Ifá reading, but you weren't. And the person may have been clear in whatever language or information that they put out, letting you know that it was not an Ifá reading, but you just mistook it for one because you just don't know the process. And it's, common, and it's okay for newbies, right? Or it could be that the person purposely misled you into thinking that you were getting Ifá divination when they were doing a reading based on an Orisha or even an ancestor reading or some other type of reading. So that could be the case there. When people tell me these things, I just always follow up with, this is what an Ifá reading entails. As I just said, it's always going to come with an Ebo. That's according to tradition. Okay. Now, another type of reading is an ancestor reading that you can get in the Ifá system. In this case, your Egungun, your ancestors, are spoken to whenever you get an ancestor reading. So the diviner is going to go to the ancestral shrine, connect with that, and then they also are going to evoke the energy of the spirit of Orunmila in order to get clarity and guidance in the reading. So Orunmila will come into this type of reading, but it's primarily based off of your ancestral lineage. They're getting messages directly from your heritage. Okay. This type of reading, it is not like it is always going to come with an Ebo. It may, excuse me, excuse me, guys. It may come with a sacrifice. Your ancestors may say, it'll be good for you to do X, Y, Z in order for you to have a better and improved experience in life. However, it doesn't always come with one. And even if it does, it is not in the same way as Ifá divination. Like, you're not expected to or required to. They're saying this is something great for you to do, and it will be beneficial for you. But the expectation for you to do it is not the same as when you get Ìdàfá, because Ìdàfá is all about generating an Odu so that you can give sacrifices and offerings. We have to understand this comes from tradition. This is not the modern day, practices that we've tried to make it out to be. And so a lot of people come to it with confusion because they're used to psychic readings or tarot readings, intuitive readings, and things like that. And they're just used to getting a reading and getting information, and that's it. And that's not what Ìdàfá is all about. This is why I always say be prepared for that next step of doing Ebo. Don't get an Ifá reading if you're not prepared for that reality. Okay. Something else you can do with Ifá is get what we call a spiritual investigation. Some other people may say a spiritual checking or use other terminology for it, but in our temple, we basically call this a spiritual investigation. So this involves asking direct questions, straightforward questions to Ifá, right? And the diviner is primarily going to use the Apele and Ibo with IBO, not Ebo as in sacrifices, but Ibo, which are basically curios, like it could be stones and other materials, bones and things like that, that you could actually think about it, similar to like a bone reading in other traditions and things like that, right? So they're going to use these devices to basically get a direct answer from Ifá or Orunmila, okay? Ebo is not going to be necessary, but it could be suggested again, similar to in the ancestor reading, depending on what the situation is. So it could be just a blanket, yes or no, or you could be asking about something, and I'm going to get to the type of questions you can ask when it comes to this that is directly from the tradition, like, who is my head Orisha or something like that. And it can present that information without you needing to do Ebo for it. Reading. So our Odessa has shown up. Thank you for joining us. Just wanted to welcome him and welcome everybody. I think I forgot to say that at the beginning because I was the volume was muted, so you guys couldn't hear me. But welcome to all who have already joined, and welcome to everybody who is continuously joining us. Greetings, greetings, greetings. So, going back to what I was saying, that's what a spiritual investigation looks like. We don't post this on the website because it's primarily something that we do internally because we don't want to confuse people. Because we put spiritual investigation and you get a spiritual investigation, it doesn't come with an elbow, and you might start to think that's what an Ifá reading is, and that is not what it is. And you primarily want to do the Ifá readings if you want to see changes in your situation. And it's okay to do a spiritual investigation. It's not like it's wrong, especially if you're like in between readings and you don't really need anything, but you need like some concrete information about something in particular. Okay. Now, there's also the notion of a destiny reading in Ìfá. This type of reading is done for infants, right? So newborns, usually it starts around 7th day of life up until 12 months is when you can do a destiny reading. You cannot do this type of reading as an adult. So past, 1 year of age, we don't do this on adults. The child must be present because their feet is needed because we're going to basically check out the path that they're supposed to walk throughout their life. So they must actually be present. What that does is reveal the major aspects of their destiny, like what path they're going to take, what kind of challenges they're going to have throughout their life, what are their strengths, right? Sometimes it may reveal like occupation and things like that. It just depends on the Odu that comes up for that particular child. And it's going to present also the taboos that the parents need to know about if they're connected to specific Egbe groups, especially like Ileko, because that group is very, very prominent. And not prominent, I didn't mean that. That group is very, very brutal, right? So a lot of times when a person is born into that group, they need rituals and services to be performed unto them from a very early age so that they don't experience a lot of difficulties throughout their life. All right. I'm not going to say it's prominent. It fluctuates. There are so many different groups. I don't know if there's one group where more people belong to than others or not. If so, it will probably be your day. Is that correct? Odessa, you let me know. Is there one particular Igbe group that more people belong to than any other group? You can put that in the comments if you hear me. The next we're going to look at is dream interpretation. So this is not, again, an intuitive process either. We're basically checking here with the divination tools to see the positive and negative aspects of your dream. So what happens is if you have a dream that disturbs you, you should go to your owl if you have somebody that you're working with and tell them rather, this is the dream that I had. And, the person will then go and check for significant events or things that you said in the dream that are related to certain aspects of the tradition. This is not intuitive where somebody is just, relaying play by play. This is exactly what it meant. Instead, we're checking to see what it meant based on the things that you are told in the reading. That being said, there are people in the Ifá tradition who can do that type of intuitive, right, level dream interpretation, but this is not what I am referring to here. Again, this is going to be checked with divination tools to determine what happened in your dream. Again, this is not something that we put out on the website. We handle this internally with people that we're working with, because it could be that your dream doesn't mean anything, right? Or it could be that it does mean something. You don't know until you go through that process. And so we basically handle this with the people that we deal with. And I'm going to say this too, like if you're working with somebody and you just got like Ifá divination through them, or if you just got like a pot or something significant through the tradition or tool or something to work with. If you have a dream not too long thereafter, maybe within the first week or two, probably go to that person and talk to them about that dream, because it may be significant based on whatever work you just did with them. So it could be telling you something that you need to be mindful of. So I would definitely encourage you all to, go ahead and do that. And if it's in general, if it's just like a dream or something that's just disturbing you, you need to talk to your owl about it. Let's see. Greetings, all who are coming in. Greetings. I thought that was Owl telling us what was going on with the egg bed, but greetings to everybody who's come in. So next we are going to let me say this part too. So all forms of readings can result in spiritual forces requesting a vote from you. It could be any of them could request it. It's just that Ebo is mandatory when you do Ìdàfá or Ifá divination, what we call Ifá divination itself. And the destiny readings, as I said before, like the expectation is if you just have a newborn child or something like that and you decide you want to do a destiny reading for that child, that you are going to give the sacrifices and offerings, because that's what that reading is all about, is so that you can do the necessary sacrifices to appease the spiritual forces so that your child can have a beautiful, enjoyable life and fulfill their destiny or whatnot without too many complications. It's an ongoing process. All Ifá readings are. It's an ongoing process. So it's not like you just do those sacrifices and that's it for the rest of their life. They will continue to get different readings as they grow and they come along to understand different aspects of their destiny and how to fulfill it. But they get the primary gist of it during that destiny reading. So we are now going to look at some of the essential information that is needed for an Ifá reading. Let's see. So now, I'm not understanding what you mean by this. So you could explain what this means. Going back to what I was saying. So typically the person who is doing the divination session for you is going to ask you for your birth name, your biological name, and either your mother's or your father's name. Historically, traditionally, the father's name was asked for. But we live in a day and age where it's not always the father's baby, as we know, right? So as the expression goes, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. So in recent times, we've transitioned to asking for the mother's name, because 9 times out of 10, that information is going to be accurate, okay? Unless the person was adopted or something like that. Now, you also want to present your birth name if you know it, right? So again, it could come up with situations that people are adopted, so you may be using a different name. Whatever name that you know, you can give it. It's not like the reading won't be accurate otherwise, but it is always best to go with those names, because we have to understand that the Ifá tradition is based on your heritage, your lineage. That's why we venerate ancestors here. And so you are part of your ancestral lineage. You are part of your own, part of that heritage. And so this is one of the reasons why that lineage is going to link back to your mother's name. And herein you can get more information based on some challenges or things that maybe your mother's side went through, your heritage, your lineage went through, that could be impacting your life. So that's one of the reasons why it's good to give the name. So you're asking, what if adoption is at play? Yes. So again, I think it probably became delayed because you guys are on Instagram. This is delayed there. I did say, if it's a situation with adoption, give the name that you have, whatever you know. That's how it works out, because you can't give anything other than that. Okay. More particularly if it is someone's parent. Again, when it comes to adoption, when it comes to you just not knowing your name or even knowing your mother's full name or something like that, give the information that you know. That's how it goes. But it is going to always be best to give the biological name, right? That's what I say. That's what, most diviners are going to tell you, to give the biological information if you have it. If you don't have it, give the information that you have. That's the way it works out, because you can still get a reading and it can still be accurate. But the more we use those, genetic or generational markers and things like that, the better it is to get out more information, more comprehensive information in the reading. Now, some readers do ask for your date of birth or a photograph. Neither one of these devices are needed to do Ifá divination. I will tell you that if somebody's asking you for your birth date, they are most likely mixing in astrology into your reading. It's not wrong to mix in astrology. However, when I say astrology, I'm going to say Western astrology at that. However, if they are doing something like that, they should be telling you. Anytime somebody's adding something that's outside of the tradition to any reading services that they offer you, they should definitely let you know, like, this is also coming from astrology or what have you. A photograph, I don't know why they would ask for it. Maybe it's just something that they want. Maybe they have intuitive gift or something like that, and so they can see more information when they look at the photograph. We do not ask for photographs for readings, because I get this question sometimes. On the description of our services, it says that we will ask for a photograph when it comes time for the EBO. We use that for receipt purposes. You do not have to give it, and I need to update that too. You don't have to give the photo. However, some people want to know, like, this is actually my ritual work. So when we do like videos or photos, any type of artifacts from the reading, we like to put that person's photo there so that you know that this is your ritual work and not somebody else, in case you have any questions about the process or what have you. But we don't need the photo for the reading itself. Question here: do you have any suggestions on where to get divination reading in Atlanta? I do not. The only place I recommend personally is through us, and that's because I know Odessa very well. I know his work. I do not recommend other people. Not saying there are not other good people out there, because I'm sure that there are. However, the other experiences that I've had with Ifá diviners, and I think it was like 3 other people that I've had readings with, I did not have the best experiences there. So I would not recommend those individuals to anyone. This is why, I do what I do, is to come to the stage with, offering these services. This is why we do what we do at Asanee 44, is because I did start to get those questions. Once I was just talking about the tradition, I wasn't even offering readings at first. And people started to ask me about reputable services, as you just did. And I get this question consistently. I started to offer these services because I know the owl that I work with, and I know his work ethic. I know his work, the strength of his work, because I benefit from it myself, because he is my personal owl. Okay. So opinions on why I was leave Ifá for Christianity, I can't answer that question. Honestly, you would have to talk to those individuals. I think it probably boils down to why anybody would leave any religious system at the end of the day, right? Some level of dissatisfaction there for whatever reason. But I don't know why, that would happen. Where am I located? I am in Arizona. I was not told, so reading via phone. I don't know what that means about told reading via phone. So I live in Arizona. However, our Odessa is in Nigeria. So he does all of the work there. We have the temple there in Nigeria, and we do all of our services out of Nigeria. I was told not to receive Ifá divination via phone or video. Okay, I see. So again, I don't know why somebody would tell you that. You can receive it, and I actually was going to get to that in more depth later on, but you can absolutely receive Ifá divination remotely. Like, the spiritual essence of you is not limited to any physical location. I've gotten them in person. I have gotten them remotely. It really just depends on you, like what you want at the end of the day. If you feel more comfortable with doing one in person, that's okay. If you feel more comfortable doing one remotely, that's okay as well. So it when it comes to anything related to the tradition, you have to assess what your needs are and what you want. That's the way it goes, and you're very, very welcome. So also, what you would want to come with is a list of questions that you want answered if that's applicable. You don't have to ask questions though. In traditional society, it was just common for people to go and get Ifá divination to see what Odu comes up, to see what they need to do at that time. Likewise, it is part of the tradition as well for them to ask questions if they have questions, but it's not mandatory that you come to an Ifá reading with questions in hand. Okay, so tomorrow, you're saying Tamara or tomorrow, if I mispronounce it, please forgive me. Greetings. I had a reading done and feel more bliss now than ever. I don't know what you're meaning there. You saying feel more bliss, so I think maybe it was a typo or something. But if you could expound upon what you were saying, lost. You feel more lost. So I don't know. If you feel lost about the reading, I would say ask the person who did the reading for you to give you more in-depth information about whatever areas of the reading you feel lost about. I don't know who you did the reading with. So I would say definitely check with that person. I always go back. And thank you even so for bringing that up, because it reminds me I definitely want to say, whenever you get an Ifá reading, you always want to go back to the person if you have questions about whatever information they present to you, because that's the main person to go to. I get so many questions from you guys about that, and I absolutely love answering like the general questions that you have, because it informs me on information that you guys want to know. However, if somebody does a reading for you, I can't answer questions if somebody else does the reading. Okay. If you're saying you tried to and been waiting for a week now, so I don't know. You have to. When you say you've been waiting for a week for the person to answer the question, like you reached out to them and they're just not responding to you, or did they say they were going to respond to you as far as your questions go, and then they didn't answer you? So, but going back to what I was saying, you go to those people that did the reading for you. If they present you with an Odu, they need to be the one to explain to you what came out of the Odu. Because some people will ask me that too. Well, what does this Odu mean? Anybody can give you the meaning of an Odu, but that doesn't mean that those aspects of it applies to your particular reading. That's why you want to go talk to that person to see exactly what applied to your reading, because some Odus come with taboos and warnings and things like that. But that doesn't mean that all of the warnings or the taboos that came out in that Odu are for you specifically. The reader will check to see which ones are applicable to you. So if you go to somebody else and try to figure out, well, what does this Odu say, and you're trying to go by that, you could be making some mistakes there and like overburdening yourself, especially when it comes to getting taboos. You're saying, I like your page and the type of content you put out. God bless. Thank you. And God bless you too for coming and joining us and supporting us. God bless to all of you all who are supporting us on this journey. And I am happy that we are able to help you all out as much as possible. And definitely, like, keep reaching out to us and let us know, what kind of information that you want to know about, what type of questions that you have, with the caveat of not something directly related to your reading, right? If you get a reading through us, first of all, you probably won't even have questions after you get the reading from us, because we are so thorough and comprehensive in the reading process itself. But if you do, you get our direct information. As soon as you get the reading, you're gonna get my personal number, WhatsApp number. You get our this is personal WhatsApp number, and you can, even so, a lot of people will go back and forth on IG, and if that's what you feel most comfortable with, is perfectly fine with me. We're going to get those questions answered for you, like, as much as we possibly can, and we're going to sit with you and get it out as much as we possibly can. Because, again, one of the main reasons I do what I do is to help people out going through this journey, because I know what it's like. I've been there before. I've been there where somebody didn't answer my questions that I had, and I'm like, just like the young lady Tamara, I think it was, confused, right? Like, you told me all this stuff, and I'm trying to get extra information to understand what you told me, but you're not responding to me. It happens. Again, this is something you just have to, it's a trial and error situation, right? You go, you communicate with somebody. If it doesn't work out, go to somebody else. Always start with your ancestors, so asking them to guide you and lead you to the place that you need to be for the reading or the services that you desire to have performed. You say, if we have our own hand of Ifa, can we do our own readings? No, ma'am. You do not do readings from the hand of Ifa by itself. There are other divination tools. Even so, you have to be trained in the process. Like, you don't know how to generate and do. So there's no way that you can do a reading from the hand of Ifa if you are not trained, if you're not a trained priest or priestess. I attempted to book a session, but it only logs me out. I tried using the link on IG. Are you referring to our services? You're saying that you're trying to book a session. If you are, just send me a quick DM on IG if you're referring to my services, and I'll send you a direct link, and we'll go from there. Okay. It shouldn't be happening. I don't know what you mean by logging out, but if you're having challenges, just email me directly, or just DM me directly, and we'll get that out. I'll walk you through that process. All right. Typically, a remote reader is going to limit the questions that you ask. We limit it to 3 because sometimes, especially people get their first Ifá reading, they want to know everything about their life and beyond. They want to know about the life they had before, the life they currently have, and the life that they're going to have in the future, right? They'll come with like 100 questions, and that is just way too much information for us to get out in one reading session. Like, you'll have somebody sitting there 6 to 8 hours just trying to get all of those questions out. If you are in front of somebody, you probably can ask more questions, but you yourself will get tired, right? So, after about a good hour and a half, you will be too tired to keep on asking the questions anyway. So that's kind of how that works. But I think most remote readers, online readers, are going to have some limitations on the type of questions that you ask, for that very reason, because it's a process. It takes some time to get those questions out. So you're saying tomorrow is costly. Yeah, exactly. Like, if somebody's sitting there for like 6 to 8 hours trying to get out questions, they can't do anything else. And I mean, doing Ifá readings, and definitely the sacrifices and offerings and things like that, that's a laborious process. Okay, so it's not like you just go and say, hey, Ifá, tell me this, right? This is a process that somebody has to go through to get you out an accurate reading, and that's what you want, an accurate reading. What are your procedures in order to place a person's hand in it, since I'm confirmed my head Orisha in my reading from you? I don't understand the question fully. Could you rephrase that for me? Um, what is the difference of using Obi versus Opele when doing readings? Please correct me if I'm getting it confused. So there is a lot of difference in those processes. I'm going to have to get you to DM me on that though, because that's something to go through. Like that's much longer than the conversation that I could have right here, as far as trying to explain the difference. But there is a difference, and there's a difference in what you are going to come out with. And really, when it comes, I'd rather talk to you one on one with that, because it really depends on what level you are at when it comes to doing OB readings. This is not something that anybody should just be doing, right? And I know that there's a thing where people are teaching people how to just throw OB, and like anybody should not be doing that. And you need to be at a certain level. So we'll get to that later on. You can ask questions that result in either closed-ended or standard answers when it comes to Ìfá divination, any form of Ìfá divination, as I mentioned before, any of the Ìfá readings, right? So Ìfá divination, I'm referring to Ìdàfá when I say that, but any type of Ìfá reading, you want to ask questions that are going to result in a closed-ended answer or a standard answer, standard being based on the tradition itself. Intuitive information, again and again and again, let me say this, is not provided through Ìfá readings. Some people come and they want to know again their whole life story, and they want to know who are my enemies, who am I going to get married to, and things like that. That is not information that's going to come out in Ìfá divination. Other readings may provide you with that information, and if that's what you need to go to a reader who can provide that type of information. That is not what Ìdàfá is about, okay? I'm getting another question here. What's the difference between Ìdàfá, Ìtéfá, and do Ìfá have different subgroups within the tradition? So Ìdàfá is an Ìfá reading. That's Ìfá divination. Ìtéfá is actually full-on Ìfá initiation. Okay, that's a process that you as an individual would go through to connect deeply with Ìfá. That's Ìtéfá, right? And do Ìfá have different subgroups? There are different lineages in the Ìfá tradition, and that's something that I was thinking about even doing a video on, just a separate video to explain that. But I do go into depth. This rather does go into depth into our course. We have a course about Ìfá divination, Orisha worship, and things like that, where we do spell out the different lineages. I'm not going to go through them in full right now, but we'll go through them a little bit. So yeah, I will just is clarifying what I said. What I just said, Ìdàfá means Ìfá divination or reading. Ìtéfá is the full initiation process. So, what are the differences in taboos when initiated and not initiated? Very good question. So, when you're initiated, that's when you get your life taboos. These taboos are permanent. They are going to stay with you full on throughout the rest of your life. When you are getting regular readings, some of them can be permanent, especially if they're linked to your connection to a specific Orisha, but some of them can be temporary. Even after you get initiated, you can still get temporary taboos when it comes to Ìfá readings. You want usually I'm not gonna say that. I don't know how everybody does their reading. I can say we always say this is a permanent taboo versus this is a temporary taboo when we provide our reading services. If you are unsure if it's permanent or temporary, you want to ask the person, is this something that I need to abide by for the rest of my life? And they should be able to provide you with that information. Okay. You said, I should appreciate that. You're very, very welcome. Absolutely. So yeah, that's when it comes to the taboos. And also, let me say this too. So when you do Ìtéfá, if you just received a hand of Ifá without going through full-on initiation, you may get some taboos there that can possibly change. They're not all going to be considered permanent. But again, if it's linked to an Orisha, it will most likely be permanent. But when it comes to you getting initiated, that's what you go by for the rest of your life. Okay? What's your procedure in placing a person hand in its? Are you asking me what's the procedure in getting the hand of Ifá through us? I think that's what the question is, but maybe with some typo or typing situation, so I don't fully understand it. But if you could clarify, I'll be glad to answer it for you. So, okay, so your hand of Ifá. First and foremost, we will require you to do Ifá divination through us. Hand of Ifá is not something that we just want to give to any and everybody, right? Because understand something, when you get the hand of Ifá, when you get full initiated, that person that does that work for you becomes your godparent, so to speak. So you don't want to do that with just anybody. You want to make sure that you vibe or you resonate with the person who you are receiving these sacred icons from. Of course, you can transition if you want to, whenever you want to. It's not to say that you are like 100% tied to this person forever and ever and ever. However, like traditionally, that's the way it operates. Like in, the new world, in the diaspora, we have this thing where people are more prone to jump from person to person to person. So for us, we would want you to go through Ifá divination first with us. Start to talk to, work with our Ancestor to make sure that you vibe with him and he vibes with you and you guys are working together properly, because there's no need for you to go and get something from someone and then transition and jump the gun and then go to somebody else and then go to somebody else and go to somebody else. So I, normally encourage you to spend about 6 months to a year with the person before you get full-on initiated or even so receiving a hand of Ifá. But if you want, to talk about that, let's do some DM. I would say get your reading out first. That way you get an opportunity to speak directly with our Ancestor and you can see if that's the path that you would like to take through us. We definitely appreciate you desiring to take that route, but we want you to make the best decision for yourself when it comes to that. Okay. Oh, you already have received it. DM me then. Sorry about that. So anybody considering that route, still good information there. DM me and we can talk about that, okay? Because I don't recognize your name from your IG handle. And even if I did, I wouldn't want to discuss that in a public forum like this. All right, so going back to the questions. Okay, closed-ended question. These are just some examples, like something like, will becoming a doctor, a singer, an engineer, lawyer, what have you, be a prosperous career path for me? So you can ask questions like that. Those are direct questions. You're presenting the path that you're considering taking versus saying, what is the career path that I should take, right? Another example, should I marry John Doe? You insert the person's name in there that you're considering marrying or considering being with long term, or the persons, because sometimes that happens too. Sometimes people are dealing with maybe 2 or 3 people and they're trying to figure out, well, which relationship should I pursue at this time that's going to lead to a more serious or better outcome for me. And then, or another example rather would be, is my grandmother Jane Doe, again, insert your grandmother's name in there, well situated in the astral realm, right? So we're asking really direct questions. We're putting in names of specific individuals so that we can get the information out, whether it's positive or negative. Some examples of like the standard questions that you can ask. It's like, who is my head Orisha? You can ask that in Ifá divination and you can get that. I don't know what this thing is where people are telling individuals that you cannot get your head Orisha until you initiate. That is not true. That's not part of the Ifá tradition. Ìṣẹ̀ṣe out of Nigeria. I have my guesses as to why it's being done, but you can get that as part of a regular Ifá reading. Okay. What egg class do I belong to? Same thing there. Even so, what Orishas, are closest to me, which ones resonate or vibe really closely with me, in addition to like your head Orisha. The head Orisha is the one that vibes the most with you, but you also have other Orishas. You can have other Orishas that are also really, really closely connected to your journey as well. You're saying if a reading indicates an Orisha's presence and not initiated, could that be my head Orisha? So your head Orisha is always going to be the Orisha that resonates most closely with you. And I think I was just answering the question that you're asking right now. So everybody has a head Orisha, absolutely. That's the one that vibes most closely with them. But you could have another Orisha or several other Orisha that are really, really closely connected to you. They're not considered your head Orisha in the same way as that primary energy is, but they can really be close to you. To find out your head Orisha, you need to ask that direct question to get that information. You can never assume just because somebody says, this Orisha is close to you. If they didn't say that this is your head Orisha and you think it is, you can ask them, like, do you mean this is actually my head Orisha, right? So Ifá is not going to typically provide you with specific details, right? So questions like, what career path should I take, is not normally going to be the best question to ask. Now, there's a caveat to this particular question because sometimes certain Odu can come out in your reading that can actually reveal what career paths are best for you. However, it doesn't come out for everybody. So two people can ask that same question. In one case, a person may be told, well, what career paths are you thinking about? So then we can do like a check-in to see which are positive and which are showing negative for you. Whereas another person may be able to ask it, and the Odu that is pulled may reveal that information. Even so, you may not even ask that question, and an Odu may come out to say, like, these are some good career paths for you based on whatever is going on in the reading at that particular time. So that's a bit of a caveat there. It's not that you can't ask it, but it's better to insert said career paths that you're thinking about going into in general for that. Who am I going to marry? Like, no, it's never going to come out and say you should marry this person by name, right? You want to present the name of the person or persons that you're thinking about marrying, and then if I can say this shows positive or this shows negative, right? Same thing. What ancestors are walking with me? We get this question a lot with the ancestor readings. We can't pull that type of information out again in an Ifá reading, right? Even if you're like doing like a tarot reading or intuitive type of reading or something like that, generally they're not going to pull the person's name. They may pull like an energy and say you have a great great grandmother, and they may describe that particular force for you if that person can see spiritual forces and commune with spiritual forces in that way. But it is not always going to be the case that it's going to go down like that. But in Ifá divination, in particular, in investigation, ancestor reading, any of those things, you want to present the exact names of the people that you're asking about, okay? Who are my enemies? I said that before, right? So if you have specific people in mind, you can ask that type of question. And even with that, I'm going to say this because sometimes people do like to ask, who are my enemies, or they want to ask if this person against me, so forth and so on. If you're doing a proper ritual work and you have just enemies in general, that sacrifice is going to deal with those people. So it could be that you do the sacrifice, and they are just removed from your path. Those people are taken out of your life, or they are rendered ineffective to do you any type of harm. So it could be a situation where your enemies are like coworkers or something like that, and you're still around these people. You can't just not be around them anymore, but they whatever works or whatever things that they do against you is not going to be effective once you engage in the proper ritual work. Okay. So Tamara, you said I asked who my head Orisha was and was told I have to be initiated $20,000 in order to get that information. Yes, absolutely. I'm gonna say, SMDH there. Yes, ma'am. No, this is not correct, guys. This is not correct. I have been told this 1,000 times over. What this is, yes, the question that we said. I'm gonna go back to this message because I really want to harp in here, guys. This type of thing happens. It is happening frequently, and I've been told this so many different times by so many different people. This is not true. You can absolutely get your head Orisha in a regular Ifá reading. If you go and get an Ifá reading from us today, you can get your head Orisha for the regular price that we charge for Ifá readings. Because there are even some people who will give you a head Orisha, but then the price is much more than their normal readings. I don't like speaking to anybody else's prices because you can charge whatever you want to charge for it. That's on you. It's up to the person paying as far as what they're going to do. But there's no way, like this should not be the case. And it does not take Ifá initiation for you to know your head Orisha. You're saying where can you learn verses from E.G. Ugly? So you can go and get the Odu. There are plenty of resources out there. I won't say plenty, but there are a number of resources out there in bookstores, Amazon, and other places. I have an Odu that I do use listed on my website in the resource section if you want to check that out, and it has all of the Odu there. Okay, because I think I skipped over that question. Sorry about that. I'm just seeing that. Can you bring an offering to someone else's shrine? Yeah, absolutely. You can, and I did talk about that in more depth, I think, on the episode that we did on Orisha pots and icons. So definitely you can give offerings to other people, to other people's shrines or what have you. You see, yes, I've heard the same. Absolutely. That's again going back to the same thing about this conversation with this head Orisha. It doesn't take that, guys. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on there, right? It is sad. It's very, very sad that this is happening. And I definitely think that's a money move. People trying to get more out of you than they should be, right? Just you don't need to go through Ifá initiation to get that. And I'm just gonna say the $20,000 price tag is not what I would consider to be reasonable and usual. That's all I'm going to say. That's very expensive. So, what do Ifá readings reveal? Okay, so yeah, another question. So, how many days is the full initiation? It depends on the person. It depends on the situation and what happens in that process. I think I'm trying to remember. So I think between about 3 to 16 days or something like that, you should prepare for it. Okay. 3 to 16 days. If you could give me some accurate data on the time frame, I will just if you hear me as far as how many days to full initiation. But I think it's about a 3 to 16 day process. Again, it depends on the person. It's not like exact for everybody. You're saying Tamara told me I'm a high priestess but wasn't given any more information. got me running around all unaligned. I'm sorry. I really am. I am, because I know how it feels. Like I tell you guys all the time, I've been there, done that as well. Been through so much when it comes to this tradition. And, I stuck in there. And that if you really want it, you stick in there, you ask your ancestors for direction and guidance. Okay. Um, but going back to the topic at hand, Ifá readings provide core details about your past, your present, and your future that you need to know at that time based on your circumstances. So you're not going to get an Ifá reading and just like go back through all of your Akashic records or something like that in just one reading session. This is a process. So over time, you want to get the information that you need at that time. That's what an Odu does. It's going to pull the information that you need at that particular time in your journey. Again, you can ask questions, right, to tease out certain information, but it's not always necessary to do so. 3 to 21 days. Yes, I was thinking, I don't know why I said 16, but probably because it's a prominent number in Ìfá. But Ìfá initiation can take up to from about 3 to 21 days, depending on, different circumstances surrounding you, right? And then also the process itself. Guys, download my Ìfá initiation guide. It is on the website. It's completely free. And it walks you through like some of the critical steps and the information that you need in relation to Ìfá initiation. Ìfá initiation guide. I think I said Ìfá divination guide. I meant Ìfá initiation guide. It'll walk you through some of the critical steps that you need to go through there and help you out. So yeah, 3 to 21 days. Thank you for that. All right. Ìfá is not a predictory tool, right, in an absolute sense. Okay. Instead, Ìfá basically is going to reveal highly probable outcomes based on the path that you are currently on and the path that you chose according to your destiny. So it may come out to reveal certain things about, you being prosperous or you having certain blessings coming for health issues, impending death, things like that. Okay. But it is all about, you taking the right steps to manifest those things, right? So the goal is to reveal the likelihood that this is going to happen based on the path that you are taking, and then allow you to take the necessary steps in order to improve or change your situation so that you can take hold of the blessings. I'm going to give an example here. So sometimes it may come out in a person's reading that they are meant to be famous, for instance. All right. Whenever that comes out, people usually get really, really excited. Oh, yes, I'm supposed to be rich. I'm supposed to be famous, or what have you. Well, that's part of your destiny, your path that you chose. However, you still have to do the work. It's not just going to manifest on its own. So, in whatever regard that you are meant to hold that fame, you still have to work to get to that space to achieve the fame. It's not, just sit in the house and then voila, all of a sudden somebody come to your house and make you famous. That's not how it goes. Okay. You have to, put in the work to do whatever it takes to get to where you need to be. Also, there could be some blockages and things like that in your way. And this is one of the reasons why we're going to do the EBO, to make sure that you don't experience, or even, I won't say make sure you don't, but instead to lessen the prevalence or the impact of any obstacles. And you can also remove them completely out of the path, depending on what they are and how advanced they are in a person's life. Okay. But just because you're meant to be famous doesn't mean that's going to happen if you don't put in the work to get there, right? It's not that you are just going to be lazy. Okay. Most famous people put in a whole lot of work. They put in more work than the average person that, just goes in to work and do their thing every day. Those people work really, really hard. Yes, it was destined for them to be famous, but they didn't get there by just sitting on their butt and doing nothing. Okay. And so that's just one example. Of course, it could be anything. Whatever it is, you still have to put in the work to get to where you need to be. The ritual work the information in and of itself is to help you to walk in that path. The ritual work is to help to make that path smoother for you, but it is not without you doing the necessary or the needful on your end. Okay. Now, how do services work? Ifá reading services work as a whole. So anybody can seek spiritual guidance, solution like, through their challenges or what have you through an Ifá reading process. It doesn't have to. You don't have to be of Yoruba descent. You don't have to even practice the Ifá tradition. You could be a Christian, Muslim, agnostic, atheist. Doesn't matter. You could be anything and still get an Ifá reading. Any religion of any religious persuasion it is, any cultural heritage, any age, small baby to somebody 100 years old, all right, plus. Okay. Initiation status, you do not have to be initiated to get an Ifá reading. All right, you just keep on moving forward in that path whenever you want to get an Ifá reading. You want to be prepared whenever you do get an Ifá reading. You come with an open mind to receiving whatever information is available for you. You want to outline questions clearly if you have any, similar to what we talked about before. Ask those questions that's going to result in like a direct answer, or is this based on, the standard guidelines of the tradition as a whole. Be ready to perform any type of sacrifices after when you are getting Ìdàfá. That's Ifá divination specifically. Be ready for that reality because it is going to come. All right. Many owls, so Babalawos, Ìtéfá. When I say owl, I'm referring to them collectively, right? Offer remote readings. So somebody brought this up earlier. You can get a reading via phone, via video call, chat, email, so many other devices. Spiritual energy is not limited by physical location. You can get an Ifá reading pretty much in any way. You can get sacrifices, that type of work done remotely as well. You cannot get initiated, full on initiation rather, via remotely. You can't do that remotely. You have to be present for that process to receive the hand of Ifá, which is the first step in Ifá initiation. You can do that remotely because that's the icon. You're receiving the icon. You're receiving information related to that path, that journey for your life. All of that can be done remotely. However, full-on initiation, you have to be present for that. Okay, but you can get a reading pretty much in any format. The way we do it, you order the reading, you get it emailed to you. We provide very, very comprehensive reading services where we outline the Odu, what came in it. We answer your questions for you via text. That's how we do it. We don't do it via video call. We don't do it via phone and things like that. Anybody can do, if somebody does Ifá divination, they can do it right on the spot if somebody is there with them, and they can do it on the phone as well. That's not the way we do it, though. That's not our process, because we do get asked that quite often too, like, can we get on the phone and so forth and so on. That situation is very nuanced for us. Not that you can't see him doing it or what have you. Is nuanced because, number one, the Nigerian network can be horrible at times. It's not always steady. Our Odessa is tremendously busy, so it's very, very hard to pin down a time and schedule people in and things like that, because not only is he doing readings, he's also doing ritual work, and he's also educating people and helping people in so many different ways. So it's very difficult for him to set a one-on-one with people, especially because we work with people all over the world, right? Even he and I have a major time difference. I'm in Arizona and he's in Nigeria. We're 8 hours apart, right? So even when we talk or we try to, get on the same page, it can be difficult, right? That's one of the reasons why we scheduled the live screens for this time, is because I want him to be on here as well as me being here, So like this is one of the best time frames for us to do that on a consistent basis. But if you want that type of reading, you have to consult with somebody who can do those types of services for you. Now, the length of an Ifá reading varies. It's typically going to last between 30 minutes to about an hour and a half, depending on the depth of the reading itself and also the questions that you ask. So that goes back to, you asking like 100 questions in a reading session. I don't think anybody would have the patience for that, because that either, like I said, not even just the person, but you, if you're face to face with them, you're not going to have the strength and dexterity to ask 100 questions when you're face to face with the person, because it will go on forever, right? But typically that's about the length of time, depending on different factors that go on in the reading process itself. Now, it depends on how often you want to do your readings. Typically, a devotee of the system, traditionally, I'll say it this way, a person got a reading about every 30 days. That's normal in Ifa culture. I'm sorry, in Yoruba culture, in the tradition. All right. But it depends on you. I always say the same thing. If you're not ready for the Evo when it comes to full on Ìdàfá, don't get an Ifá reading until you're ready for that reality. Okay. If you are not a devotee or practitioner of the system, you can basically just get Ifá readings whenever you have major life decisions or you're dealing with adverse situations or what have you. You go and you get a reading, then you do the Evo or whatever is required, and you move along. You come back whenever you need it. It's completely up to you. It's up to you either way. But if you are a devotee of the system, the expectation is for you to get regular readings about every 30 days. But it's not a requirement either. That being said, you also don't want to get readings too frequent. Okay, so it's best to wait at least 17 days in between Ìdàfá sessions. That's the Ifá reading itself. So you can do an Ifá reading and an ancestor reading or a spiritual investigation and things like that within the same general time frame. However, when it comes to Ìdàfá, because it's going to generate that Odu, you want to wait about 17 days out, because it's basically going to come with the same Odu if you don't. Sorry, the same Ebo and Odu, if you don't, both really. It's basically going to come with the same information. So it's like pointless for you to do it back to back like that. So you can get an Ifá reading for someone else, right? But typically it's going to be best for you to get that person's consent if you're getting a reading on their behalf, except when it comes to like parents getting readings for their children, or if you're getting a reading based on your family members' well-being, especially if they can't do the reading process themselves, they're incompetent or incapacitated or what have you, and you're trying to get direction and guidance for that. Or if you are directly involved in the reading for the person, like if you have a vested interest in this person's situation or life circumstance, right? So if it's like, is it a good idea for me to marry XYZ person or what have you, then you can get a reading and things like that when it comes to that individual. But generally, like if it's just a general reading, you're just trying to pull an Odu for somebody else, yeah, you want to get their consent. It's better for you to get their consent before you do that, okay? Alrighty, so we got a comment. I recently had Ita was told I needed the hand of Ifá. What should I be expecting? Generally, how much it costs? Look at me, Santo line doesn't usually deal with the, so I'm asking. Okay, so if you want to know the price of any type of icon from us, I want you to DM me for that. I don't give that information out publicly because it can change, right? So Nigerian prices fluctuate quite frequently. We never know what they're going to be. So whenever we give out prices for any type of icon or something like that, it is usually going to hold a value for about 14 days. It may stay the same after that, but we want to give you the most accurate rate, so we don't post that publicly for that reason. All right. And so as far as with them, I can't answer that question as far as how much it costs with them. So I'm assuming that you're asking for the price from our end. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and send me a DM, and we can discuss that. We can get you out more information there. Okay. Let's see. So we talked about that part. Now, it is best to get an Ifá reading before you go through an initiation process. You don't want to go through a full initiation process and not get an Ifá reading, especially with that person. As I said before, I recommend you spending some time with that person, around 6 to 12 months. But if it's an emergency situation, you may have to go ahead and do the Ìdàfá or what have you before that. But make sure it's somebody that you really want to travel that path with. Don't rush in, and don't let anybody feel like you have to rush into that process. But usually you're going to want to do several, not just one Ifá divination sessions with the person whom you plan to go ahead and initiate unto, okay? Because you want to get a lot of information out about your life, your destiny, your path. And again, you want to understand the person that you are working with. Now, I'm going to transition to the last section that I have for this live stream. Guys, if you have any lingering questions, comments, inquiries, or what have you, please go ahead and place them in the chat box, and I'll try to get to them before we close up. So, Ifá readings and personal transformation. I always like to talk about how these dynamics are transforming our lives, because that's what it's all about. Like, it's not just about doing all this work and not getting any benefit or result from it. So why do you get an Ifá reading? Any type of Ifá reading. So it's going to help to reveal your destiny, your divine purpose, what steps you need to take to fulfill it. Everything in Ifá that we do, as far as a reading goes, it is all about understanding your destiny, bit by bit, little by little. Okay. It also helps to strengthen your connection to your higher self, your Ori, for better decision making. So you'll know, okay, this is the steps that I need to take. This is what I need to do right now because I'm having these particular experiences or what have you in my life. So I need to make this decision that's going to align me better with my particular destiny so that I can be in balance and in harmony. It's also going to suggest specific sacrifices, any type of rituals or crochet or other remedies that you need to clear any blockages that you may be dealing with, and also to attract blessings into your life. Because again, Ifá divination is about resolutions. It's not just about information. It's about getting remedies, getting help with your issues, and helping you to grow and to improve your life overall. So, guys, if you desire to experience the most transformative Ifá divination Ìdàfá experience to help you in your journey, definitely visit our shop website, Asanee44.com. You can also purchase directly off of YouTube if you're on that platform, and we will be sure to help you along your journey. So, any questions or from anybody before I close up? I hope I was able to answer the questions that you have today about this topic and more. Definitely, guys, check us out, Asanee44, and I will see you guys next week. I didn't plan yet exactly what we're going to talk about, but you will see it coming up, in the link soon on YouTube or what have you. And we'll jump into that topic again next week. Ashe, please have a very blessed and beautiful day, and be on to everyone.